The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I am so delighted to introduce to you my guest today, Chris Mollkoy, who's a construction technology teacher at Dos Pueblos High School in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Chris, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to talk all about what happens at DP, the magic in the classroom. But before we go into all that, let's really talk about Chris as a kid, where you were born, raised, grew up, and what that looked like.
Sure. Well, I was born in Chicago, and I grew up in the Midwest till I was, grade school age. And then we moved to Orange County, and I grew up in Anaheim. But I spent summers going back and visiting all my cousins and so forth growing up. But I went to elementary and junior high and high school in Anaheim. Graduated from Catella High School. And I was a wrestler in high school, so I had some scholarship offers. I did pretty well when I was in high school. So that pushed me towards UC Davis, which is where I got my college degree. Like all good shop teachers, I got it in English.
Exactly.
And went into the teaching field of English. And I taught English for 7 or 8 years. And then I got tired of grading papers like some English papers do. Teachers do. And so I started to get into the trades. I thought, I'll take a summer off, year off teaching. I'll just do this summer. And then the summer turned into a year, and the year turned into 10 years. And I was coaching sports at Dos Pueblos High, and Sean Carey said, hey, would you ever want to come back to teaching? And so I said, sure, I'd love to. She's like, well, our shop teacher just retired. So that's kind of how it started.
Is that Mr. Eibach?
Yeah, Mr. Eibach, yep.
Of course, I want to roll back just a little bit. So you've gotten us from Chicago to Anaheim to DP.
Yep.
And so let's roll back just a little bit.
Sure.
You talked about being in high school in Anaheim and then going to UC Davis as a wrestler and also an English major, it sounds like.
Yep.
So let's talk about both for a minute. In terms of being interested in English and an English major in the subject, I was an English major also. Not a wrestler, though, but...
Well, you could be.
I could be.
Okay.
Yes, I could be, I think. But what was your fascination, love of English? What really made you, drew you to that as a major?
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Okay, and?
So growing up in elementary school, I was diagnosed with a couple different learning disabilities. One of them was dyslexia, visually, but also auditorily. And then I also have ADD and ADHD. This was when it was first kind of getting diagnosed. But the dyslexia really threw me off. So school was never, until I got diagnosed, and even after that, school was never very easy. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I tend to be what you would call a grinder. That's maybe just a wrestler mentality, but I just kept on working extra hard, harder than other people, because just to stay afloat when I was in high school. And I got into UC Davis because I had a wrestling kind of scholarship, and so my academics weren't there at that point.
Okay. But you majored in English?
Yeah, so when I got there, I fell in love with books. Because before that time, the only books I read in high school were the plays that we read in class, just because it was so hard and challenging. But when I got in college and I saw that I was going to need to be a good reader, I really just fell in love with books, and a whole new world opened up to me, and I started reading. And as I started reading literature and started going to poetry classes and started taking the curriculum, I really kind of fell in love with it and just realized that it was really enjoyable. And that I also found, since I'm kind of logical and argumentative at times, that I liked writing the argumentative essays and proving things. So I happened to be just pretty good at that. And so I kind of thought, okay, well, I love English. I'm a decent writer, and I know I want to coach sports when I get out. And so I decided I did basically English, and then I minored in education because I knew I was going to go to credential school. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And I still want to go into wrestling for just a moment.
Sure.
But I love that you talk about the learning challenges that you had and what you needed to do to really overcome, which was work extra hard. I mean, you really put in the extra work, the grind, as you said.
I did.
You really did. And it didn't come easy, but you worked really hard. And it also sounds like the passion for reading and the kind of the unlocking the love of the books really happened later for you in college. It wasn't something
much later.
It wasn't something that clicked 6th grade, 12th grade, 11th grade. It was much later. And was it a particular genre or a particular professor or type of learning?
Right. Well, when I was younger in grade school and I was having a hard time reading, the Greek and Roman mythology was always really attractive just because the stories are short and they're very memorable and easy to memorize. Yeah. So I liked that kind of action and lots of flip-flopping and things going on. When I got to college, it was actually a British Lit class, and I fell in love with Jane Austen. And I just thought her characters were so cool. The women were intelligent, they were witty, especially some of her characters are super sarcastic, so I connected with them. And I just thought, there's not a lot of female characters and writers in that period. And her characters are so vibrant and they're so multifaceted that I was just caught off guard by that. And I love that class. And, eventually, after I'd been teaching for a while, that led to me going to Oxford University on a summer study.
Wow.
And I got to study British Lit and Jane Austen in particular at St. Anne's College, and it was awesome. So,
what a journey.
Yeah. She definitely motivated me to kind of go deeper into reading and to kind of English. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And especially next to wrestling, because it's just very different. I don't know about opposite, but just a different kind of chemistry here.
Right.
But you were obviously an excellent wrestler. You got a scholarship from high school. A moment ago, you just said you spoke with your high school wrestling coach not too long ago from right now, right? So you're still connected, and that was something that you wanted to do, and actually did at Dos Pueblos for a long time. Is that right?
Yeah. So almost 15 years I was coaching wrestling at DP.
Okay.
I've coached other sports as well, but his name's Dick Werschke. He was my coach, but he's like a second dad to me, and he changed my life, basically. He kind of pointed out a different path, and he was into math. He's a math teacher, and I wasn't, so he helped me a lot, and he just really made sure that education was important to me, and that I did things the right way. And I see him, usually once a year. We usually talk on the phone a couple times a year, for the last 30-something years. So,
that's great. And
I stay at his house sometimes, and when we're down in Orange County or whatever. So he's great, and he basically showed me the way to coaching and what kind of coach I wanted to be, and my perspective and my attitude on the kids, and I took almost everything from him.
That's really great.
So.
That's great. What a wonderful tribute. So a moment ago, you talked about that quick arc between leaving Davis to DP and construction technology.
Yeah.
So Sean Carey, who was the principal at the time, asked if you might consider it, and it sounds like you said yes.
Yeah, well, I had a young family at that time. I have 2 boys now. One's going to be a freshman, one's going to be a senior. But at that point, they were little. They were in elementary school, and my wife was like, it would be better, obviously, if you could be at home with the boys during the summer and during the holidays. My wife works full-time at Cottage, so it just seemed like a good fit. I mean, and I loved working in the trades, and I loved carpentry, so I didn't want to leave that field, but I was missing more time with the kids, the students. I call them kids, they're students.
Right.
Sorry. And so I thought, if I could get in the classroom again, but not in English, but in construction, then it would be the best of both worlds for me. Yeah. So It's been a 17-year journey from starting English to into the trades and then back to teaching, but in a different field. So
wow.
It's an interesting journey.
Interesting journey, but it seems like all of those experiences layer one on top of another to make it into what it is today. I mean, you wouldn't be the same person or teacher had you not had all of those experiences behind you.
Yeah, that's true.
It seems to me, it seems to me. And so what is your teaching assignment now at Dos Pueblos?
I teach construction technology and woodworking at Dos Pueblos High School, and there are several classes within that pathway that either I've created or other teachers have created, but one of them is construction technology, 1 and 2. 1 would be the beginners and 2 would be the more advanced kids. Those are the students that mainly helped us build the tiny homes that you've probably seen around town. We have an explorations in construction class, which is for freshmen. Okay. It's basically to introduce them to the trades and to woodworking and to kind of using their hands. And then I created a curriculum called Fine Woodworking, which is basically a furniture class. So cabinetry and furniture, chairs, desks, tables, all kinds of stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow, there's so many questions I want to ask you about this, but let's start with this one. It seems like what I have understood is that the enrollment in your programs at DP have just begun to mushroom into a really majorly thriving course for all kinds of students. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Describe that.
Well, I think all the woodworking programs in the school district, the junior high ones and the high school, they've been growing steadily each year. So I think if you obviously have good teachers that are passionate and care about the kids recognize that, they see it. And I think my kids would probably call me a spaz. I'm pretty high energy. I have a hard time sitting down and staying. That's probably part of my ADD. And I also don't like to do things like a second time, like a project. So I'm always trying to come up with new ideas and creative things to do because I get bored. But yeah, when I started, let's see, it was 7 years ago now, I had 2 classes and 55 kids. And this year we'll have 7 classes and 215 kids.
Wow.
So, and from last year to this year, we grew 45%.
Wow.
So it was really big, which is good to see because I've worked really hard to bring it to that. And there have been lots of other people like Sean Carey, like Bill Woodard, lots of other assistant principals, Mary Ziegler, that have helped me build this program up. They've either given me financial support through the school or they've helped me apply for grants, that have facilitated this program kind of on a trajectory towards growth. So I feel lucky. I feel blessed to be at the school.
Wow. Well, they're fortunate to have you too. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It's good. I feel lucky. I mean, what person gets to get up and work with tools and kids like it? I pinch myself and go, this is really my job. I get paid for this. I think it's unique that a person could love their job so much and be so passionate about it. I think that's more and more rare. So I don't want to take it for granted.
Yeah. Well, clearly you don't, and clearly you're very appreciative of where you are and what you get to do each day. And I know the Dos Pueblos community and the community at large is appreciative of having you as their teacher as well. And when we talked about the mushrooming of the enrollment in terms of the construction courses at Dos Pueblos and all of the courses, basically, you were saying even in junior high. My understanding is that more and more young women, young girls are enrolling as well. Yeah. And you have a huge diversity of students in your class, not just girls and boys, but just all different abilities, languages, etc.
For me, that's been one of the most satisfying things is to see the girls taking the classes. Because when I started, I think in my 5 classes, I might have had 1 or 2 classes, I might have had 1 girl. And up until maybe last year, it was always somewhere around 5 or 7%. And last year was closer to 15% of the students would be females. So that's not that great, but it's great coming from 1% or less. The women are so much more patient. They're so much more focused and attentive. They listen to me when I suggest something to them. and they're detail oriented in general. I think just it's been my experience with the girls that take my class. They're creative and they want to do things, and they want guidance, but they don't want me to do it for them. And that's been a highlight for me. So, for example, this summer we run woodworking camps at DP for kids 5th grade through 8th grade. And we had almost probably 30 or 40% were girls this year, which is great. So it started off again like the regular classes, but we've been talking to the junior highs and we've been advertising and marketing and trying to get the kids out there. And I think that's important. I think woodshop is not just about construction and guys doing it. There's so many different areas and fields. Right. And I think women can participate just as well as men in all the different jobs.
As you're saying this, it's making me think about your response to the love of reading and Jane Austen and all those spirited women that you read about. And I can see how similarly in your classroom, you get very inspired by these young women with this spirit and independence, but also this creativity. And, there's something about Jane Austen that's coming up right here in your CTE classes.
Yeah, well, I grew up with a mom who is independent, intelligent. I mean, my parents are married still, but my mom was an excellent role model. She was working outside the house my entire life, and so I always saw her as an excellent role model. She was highly educated and loved learning and loved helping people out. So those two things I think rubbed off. And then, I married a super strong woman who's intelligent and gifted and driven and is passionate about what she does. And she works at Cottage, like I said, so she's helping people as well. So I've had good role models, and so I want to kind of be that to my students, whether male or female, but I want to be that kind of positive influence for them and direct them down a good path. So,
Chris, I'm so inspired by listening to you, truly, and I know our viewers are as well, not just as a teacher, but as an individual, as a father, and somebody who's really raising up our kids in the school community. I didn't mention this before, but I want to mention it now that recently you were named the Marvin Melvin Career Technical Educator Award. And most people watching will not know what the award means or who it's named after.
Sure.
Can you describe that for the viewers?
Sure. So Marvin Melvin was a shop teacher at Santa Barbara High School, primarily metal, is my understanding. But Frank Skipper, who's a big contractor in town, and he and his wife Leslie, they do a lot of nonprofit work in town. He had Marvin Melvin as a teacher, and he changed Frank's life.
Right.
And so Frank created this award in his honor, and it's an honor for me to have it. Because it's for industrial arts. Yes. It's for our county, so it's local. And it's good to be recognized for the work that you put in. I can't rest on my laurels though. So, but it's been fun. The award ceremony was excellent, and I was overwhelmed with gratitude for just being a part of it. So.
Well, very well deserved. I know Frank, you know him very well, and we all, anyone who knows him loves him. Leslie as well. Yeah. And they would not have chosen you had you not been an exemplar for a construction technology educator in Santa Barbara County. It really is a county-wide award. So congratulations again, and we're really, really excited that you were named Marvin Melvin Career Technical Educator of the Year. And so earlier you talked about the tiny houses. That is a huge project and undertaking.
Yeah.
It's very
not tiny.
Not tiny, very large tiny house project for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to describe what this is for our viewers, and then I want to talk about the big show. Okay, so perfect. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the tiny home idea in our school district came when Caleb Chadwick and I were talking about we wanted to teach the kids real skills that were not separated in different units like in a classroom, but we wanted it to be something where those things were ongoing in one project. And so we thought, maybe a shed, some other kind of structure. And then tiny homes were becoming very popular, 6, 7 years ago. So we thought this would be a great way. We could teach them every trade, basically. And so we had no idea how hard it was going to be with students. If Caleb and I were building it, we'd probably be, a couple months, 2 months maybe for us to do it. With the students, it's taken 2+ years. So, which is expected. But a tiny home is essentially a structure would be under 500 square feet. It doesn't have to be mobile, but the ones that the school district built were built on trailers, so that somebody could hook them up to their truck or vehicle and transport them anywhere in the country that they wanted. So Trade Art has been a huge supporter of our programs, and I think without their support, our programs would have died for sure. So very thankful to Leslie and Frank and all the board members of Trade Art. So they partnered with us on this endeavor, and they not only gave us encouragement and support, that way, but they came to work at the job sites. They helped us get an award, awarded a grant with the Santa Barbara Women's Fund. They supported us, and they gave us $50,000 to build these, knowing that we have women in our programs and we're trying to grow those numbers. And so it was a great partnership between us three to build them. And it was a labor of love. Lots of late hours after school, lots of Saturdays. We just tried to do whatever we could to get it done. And the kids in all of our programs, I know this for Justin Howe at San Marcos and Caleb Chadwick at Santa Barbara High, all the students that worked on it loved it. And they were totally into it, and they learned a great deal. So we're going to build another one.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
We just voted last week to all 3 schools. We're going to build just one together.
Oh.
So this is a different kind of format, but I think share the responsibility of the building part of it a little bit with each other. Also, it'll give us more collaboration because we'll have to work together more. Yeah. And we want to keep that going.
Sounds like there was some lessons learned with the first go. That
for
now,
sure.
Yeah, we're going to do it in a little different way. Still
for sure.
do it, but
yeah.
And the value of the project was definitely there.
Yeah,
for the students.
Absolutely. Yeah. The value for them to learn all the different trades like framing and electrical and plumbing and how to put in doors and windows and how to do roofing. All that stuff I think is important, obviously.
Yes.
Not that every person that's in our classes obviously is going to go into the trades, because that's not the number one goal. I mean, it's great to have kids, and each of the programs have had students that have gone into the trades or are doing school for the trades. But it's not our number one goal, but to teach the kids and to give them at least an experience with that. I think maybe if they're homeowners later in life or whatever, I think it'll help them to feel more confident about fixing things, or at least when they're talking to a contractor, they'll know what they're talking about a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's more than just going into the trades. It could be purely around college and career readiness that we talk about, right? And all of the other life skills that you just mentioned as well.
Sure.
And so the big show is a show in the spring, and I understand that that's where the tiny homes were shown.
Correct.
But there were other objects and other projects shown as well. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So we started it 3 years ago. Timmy Palmer was a teacher at Santa Barbara Junior High, and he and I got hired at the same time. It was his idea, and we wanted to basically showcase the kids' work, because they're doing some amazing things in class. Yeah. And really, maybe only their parents are going to see that. Even sometimes kids don't even take their projects home because they're maybe embarrassed or nervous or whatever. But we wanted to just really get some recognition for the kids because they're amazing. Their creativity, their hard work. It was just an opportunity to kind of, put them at the forefront and showcase them. And so, first year we had it at the Santa Barbara County Education Office, and we had like 5 parents show up. Oh. But it was fun. There were kids there, and we got to give kids awards, and it was great. And we grew You know, the next year we ended up going to Earl Warren, and we had like about 55 or 60 parents show up, so it was better, and we had more kids do projects. And then this last year with the tiny homes, they were displayed out behind Earl's place. That's where we had our event, and so there was a lot of people, even people without students that had just seen the advertisement or the in the paper, Independent or whatever. Hey, come check out the tiny homes. So they did, and we had probably 300 or 400 people there.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing, and we probably had 200 parents at the end. Just really cool for me and the other teachers to see the kids getting recognized, and the parents just, some of them don't even know what their kids are doing because the kids don't want to talk about it or whatever.
Right.
So it was cool to just see the parents go, wow, you did that? That's amazing. And, you know, give them some awards. Not that that's why you build things or do things, but to recognize those kids that were really exceptional and put in extra effort and time. So it was overall just a great night. It's my favorite night of the whole year, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That is really great.
Yeah, so.
I wonder how the students felt, those even not just being recognized, but just having their work on display, what that means to them. You know, how does that kind of impact them to have this night for that?
Right. Well, you know, part of career readiness, right? Whether it's college and career or just career, but part of, you know, if you're talking about a depth of knowledge for students, right? No matter what the class is, part of having a depth of knowledge in a subject is presenting it, you know, out into the public in some way, whether it's teachers on campus or whatever. And so that's scary for them, right? For sure. The students are scared. Sometimes that can be really good, right? And it pushes them to work harder, it pushes them to concentrate more and to choose projects that are challenging. When we first started a couple of years ago, the projects were very simple. You know, cutting boards and pens and pencils and simple things like that. And as it's gone along, there's like full tables. There's segmented bowls that are just beautiful, just amazing projects that I never thought, you know, we would be doing. So the kids have pushed us because they recognize that this is a time for them to shine, and you know, I think it's great because of that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Chris, I cannot believe our time together has actually just vanished. All of a sudden, time with you just goes by really quickly, and talking about students and talking about the spotlight that you just talked about on construction, technology, all of the crafts and trades as you have discussed. I want to thank you so much for all that you do for the students, not only at Dos Pueblos, but truly for the community. Again, congratulations on your recognition.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you so much for joining us today for this edition of Schools of Thought.